Well, here we are. Had a little technical issue here. I was actually recording and not broadcasting. So anyway, I'm your host, Rick Sodebeer, author and dating coach, and I'm so glad you're here. And I hope you've had a couple of good weeks. I've been gone for a couple of weeks, and I hope you had an awesome Thanksgiving, 4th of July. You can tell that my mind is racing already towards the end of the year. But anyway, the fireworks up here were just epic this past weekend, or 4th of July weekend, and for such a small town, they do such an incredible job. This should be on one of your bucket list items to come up to Wakefield, Michigan on 4th of July for their fireworks celebration. It is just absolutely incredible. And I've only been to it twice, but they have never disappointed. There's 40 minutes of literally it's nonstop. I don't know that the sky was when they started. I don't know that the sky was empty for more than a second or two at any given time. So it was pretty incredible. But anyway, I hope you all are doing well. And yesterday I was driving and listening to a podcast, and the podcast triggered some thoughts. And one of those thoughts was about the fact that I do quite a bit of talking about our must-haves and our deal breakers, but I talk very little about the what we bring to the table. What makes you an extraordinary mate? What makes you a soulmate to somebody? And there are a number of factors, and one of the things is that I truly believe is that we have to take an introspective look at ourselves on a regular basis to see if we're growing, if we're getting better, or if there are areas of our lives that need to be improved upon. And and I don't know about you, but I know I certainly can use some improving upon, and I try to do a little bit every day. It should be something that we do every day. Life should be a growth event, not a dying or a fading event. It's something that if, and especially if you want to be in a dating world, but if you want to be a conversationalist at all, even if you're married, or if you're at work, if you're whatever situation you're in, those people that are most attractive are the ones that can hold a conversation. And it could be about anything. And it could be and it doesn't have to be the socio-economic or political spectrum that we're in right now, because that's such a crazy and polarizing subject. And it's something that it's those types of subjects. I mean, unless you're very, very close to somebody, it can trigger a lot of hard feelings. And if you're just getting to know somebody, you might want to tread lightly. But the idea here is to take a look at ourselves and see what we're doing to be attractive to others. And one of the things that struck me while I was out driving around yesterday was the fact that, and I've always looked at improving as learning something, or getting better at something. But it struck me that yesterday we can do other things like travel. What about have you ever talked to somebody that's done a lot of traveling and how fascinating they are, telling about their stories of their travels, the places that they've gone, the things that they've done? And it doesn't necessarily need to be a round the world trip. It can be someplace simple. It can be a road trip. It can be, just a couple of hours away and go and explore someplace else. Find out something new. And it doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be their interest, but what it does is it starts making you a little bit more well-rounded person. And who doesn't like to, let's see, let me turn it. Oh, there we go. My comments were off. So anyway, it's been a hot minute since I've done this, and I've been doing some other technical work around here, so I know I've flipped some switches and changed some things around. So if I screw up today, well, when I screw up today, just point it out to me, and we'll rock and roll from there. But we are always attracted to those that seem to have interesting stories, and they don't have to. Like I said, take a short trip, take a long trip. I have a friend right now that's enjoying some international travel, and every once in a while she just picks up and goes, and she doesn't necessarily do it with anyone. She just goes. So the thing to keep in mind is to do things that interest you. Make yourself a more well-rounded person, or let me rephrase that. You will make yourself a more well-rounded person when you get out and do things, and if you can do them on your own, it just makes you that much more fascinating. You don't need somebody to hold your hand. You don't need somebody to take you wherever you want to go. There are plenty of things to do. Take out a map and look for some things to do. I know near the Kansas City area where I'm from, it's within a couple of hours, I think about 2 or 2.5 hours, you can be near the covered bridges of Madison County. That's a pretty cool place. You can be close to John Wayne's birthplace. And there are, you just look at a 2-hour radius anywhere around, just point your car and go. The whole idea here is to expand your horizons. We tend to focus on the things that we want in a relationship, or the things that we don't want in a relationship, the things that we want to avoid. But we rarely take a look at the things that we can provide to somebody. And by continually building on our experiences, we can create in ourselves somebody that's intellectually attractive. Not necessarily just the physical, the physicality of a relationship, but create some interest in your intellect. Become somebody that can strike up a conversation. And sometimes it's so easy when somebody starts telling a story about one of the travels or one of the trips that they've been on. You said, "Oh, I know that was I was there. It was such a great place. It was so much fun." Or, "Oh, I'd love to do that. Tell me more." Have you ever been in a conversation where you started telling a story, and they said, and you've told a tale of going somewhere, and somebody near you or a couple of people said, "Oh, I'd love to do that," or "How did you do that? You did that on your own. I'd be so terrified." And then you can start sharing with them the simple steps that you took to overcome your fears, and it creates a story. It creates a more interesting you. And the whole idea of creating a more interesting you is to make you more attractive, and attractive to those that you want to be attracted to. If you're sitting at home on the couch dreaming of a relationship, that's one of the hardest places to find it. It just doesn't happen there. We have to be an active participant in our lives, And not only do we have to actively participate in the search for our soulmate, we have to participate in the experiences of our lives. And the more often we do those things, the more intriguing we are. It's like the old beer commercial. I think it was a Dos Equis commercial, or it's the white-haired guy with the beard, and he says, "I'm the most fascinating man in the world, and I don't normally drink beer, but when I do, it can be, you can create one of those situations for yourself. I don't normally travel, but when I do, this is what I like to do. I don't normally like to go bike riding, but when I do, this is where I go. What are some of the opportunities that you can create for yourself, and to just go out and do things." Hey, Liz, thanks for joining in. Thanks for the comment. Let's see, Liz, what does Liz have to say? Liz says, "I do travel often and it is very freeing. I get a lot of questions about why I go alone. I believe I was born with a wanderlust and use it well." That's awesome. Yeah, I just saw on Facebook that you were, and I don't recall where you were, but I recall that you were out of town, and so Liz is a perfect example. Liz has popped up with a couple of great examples in the last couple of weeks of what I'm sharing. And Liz is a perfect example of how you make a much more rounded life. It's a life that not only is interesting to you, but it becomes interesting to those around you. And when you get to share that, and Liz, if you don't mind sharing, why do you go alone? That's a great question. Maybe you can share with the audience, why you like traveling alone, or what makes traveling alone intriguing to you, other than potentially that you can meet some great people out there and strike up some great conversations. And again, traveling doesn't have to be this long process where you have to have passports and it's expensive. You can drive, like I said, for just a couple of hours. Go someplace and explore. Find a little dive for lunch or for supper. Find a little motel or a Airbnb, or what are some of the vacation rentals that you can just get away. And you don't have to go thousands and thousands of miles. You can go 60, 80, 100 miles, and that will take you into a whole different realm. I know when I'm traveling, it doesn't take long, especially from up here. You can go just an hour or two, and the climate starts to change. So that's always fun, and especially in the fall, if you like to travel and take a road trip to look at the fall colors. There's through the north central states and the northeast states, there's some awesome colors, that you can hone in on or tune in on, and it's a matter of a phone call to a local tourist or a chamber of commerce. They can tell you what's going on in the area, when the peak colors are going to happen. Call a few weeks in advance. If you're thinking about a fall color tour, look up some places, and call them a couple of weeks in advance, or even a couple of months in advance. They can start telling you when to expect the peak colors. Now, it'll vary from time to time, depending on the season. Sometimes it's a little earlier, sometimes it's a little later. But it's just a couple of phone calls, and in a couple of hours, for many of you, you can be there. It's not that difficult. And Liz says there are a lot of people who have the time to take off and go like I do. So I want to go somewhere. So I want to go somewhere I just do. I would be I would be boring to be at home all the time. I love learning and seeing new places and do some do meet some fun people. There you go. That's my point. Is you get out and do these things and have a fun time. Enjoy it. And it takes and for some of you it's going to take a little bit of effort to be a little more outgoing. It's just to be an outgoing and you don't have to be an extrovert to be outgoing. You don't have to be outgoing all the time. You can enjoy whatever's going on around you, and you can chat up a few people, have a couple of conversations, but it doesn't have to be this big elaborate production. Keep it simple. And hey, Kathy, thanks for joining in. Glad you're here. Kathy says, I'm not waiting for someone to go with me. I want to do something. I do it. If I want to do something, I do it. There you go. That's my point. And so for the rest of you, I'm hoping that you're following the lead of Liz and Kathy, and hopefully you're getting out and doing these things. But if you're not, this is something that's it's very simple to do. I mean, you can plan some elaborate or more elaborate vacations. Find a tour that's going someplace that's going to France or Italy or Germany or whatever, or Finland or Poland or wherever it is that you'd like to go, whatever part of the world you'd love to see. And some of these trips can be relatively cheap. And I'm not trying to promote travel. It just seems to be what's on my mind today. But it's the whole idea is to make you a more well-rounded person. The whole idea is to make you more conversational. The whole idea is to make you more attractive. And people have asked me in the past, how do you make yourself more attractive to somebody? And this is how you do it. You don't have to go get a PhD in anything or a master's degree in any subject. There's so, you can read books. You can go out. You can go on join a hiking group. You can and there are so many great conversations to be had when you're out hiking or walking. And again, depends on the group. You can join a biking group or a bicycle group, and they do some great rides. There's probably not a lot of talking during the ride itself, but they make stops, and you can have a conversation. You can have a cocktail or a bottle of water, and while you're resting and waiting to move on to the next location. Liz says fall colors are great on the South Boundary Road, in the Porkies or in the Smoky Mountains. And for those of you that don't know, the Porkies are a range of mountains here in Upper Michigan. And that is it is absolutely beautiful up here in the fall, because there's so many maple they're just, I just love maples in the fall. Hey Addie, thanks for joining in. I'd love to travel more, but it's a bit more expensive to get rooms as a solo versus being able to split the cost with a friend. It just means I can't go as often. Well, you don't, and there's it doesn't have to be expensive, Addie. You don't have to go for long weekends. Again, you can take trips, excursions, a couple of hours at a time, and just go experience something for a day and be home. Yes, gas is a little more expensive today than it was 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, but it is what it is. And it's not something you have to do every weekend. If you do it once a quarter, or if it's going to be a longer trip, once a year. It does not have to be something that you're doing continually. But what the bottom line of this whole process is to find things. And in this particular case, we're talking about travel. But there's any number of things that you can do to go out and make yourself a more well-rounded person, and make yourself more interesting to talk to. And I'm not saying that any of you are poor conversationalists or don't have anything to talk about. No, but the more things you do, the more you get out and do, it adds to your repertoire of experiences. And what are the things that we all talk about? Our personal experiences. And sometimes it's just the journey itself. It's the wrong turn that you make that makes the whole event, or that makes the whole trip. You make a wrong turn and end up seeing something you hadn't planned on seeing at all. But there are any number of other things that can be done. There are again, like I said, there are hiking groups. There are groups that they go painting, they go hunting, they go golfing, they play tennis. The pickleball is one of the big events right now, or the big sports, the up and coming sports. It's supposedly great exercise, but not overly strenuous, I guess. I mean, unless you get into really competitive stuff, from what I've seen. But there are so many things that you can do, and the whole idea is to expand your horizons. Go take a sailing lesson, go take a shooting lesson to see if you'd like any of this stuff. And if you do, keep doing it. If you take a couple of lessons and decide, this just isn't for me, go off and try something else. But again, we tend to focus on the external. We tend to focus on whatever we're looking for, whatever type of relationship we're looking for, or the person we're looking for, and we don't often enough internally, or take an internal look at what we want, or what we bring to the table. What are some of the things? Do you you could go snow skiing. You can go art collections. There's in most cities and even small towns, there's not necessarily art galleries, but they'll have, you check with the Chamber of Commerce and see what's going on. We've got in this week in my hometown, we've got Festival Ironwood, and that draws in people from all over back into town from all over the country. So I love coming to this event personally, because I get to see friends that I haven't seen in a year or 2 or 5. There are things like that you can do. Are there events in your hometown that draw people in, that might be fun to attend? Yes, I know sometimes it gets crazy busy with people, and it gets hard to move around, but sometimes you put up with that just for the experience, and you never know who you run into. And and if you like to dance, there's a lot of these types of things have live music, or if you just like to listen to music, you get to listen to live music, and that's something that I personally like. I went to a venue last weekend that had live music from one of my classmates was singing. It was awesome. The idea, though, is to again, how can you expand your horizons? How can you make yourself a more interesting person? How can you make yourself more attractive to the person that you ultimately want to meet? What are what are some things that pop into your head? What are some of the things that you'd like to do? I'm just shooting things at you that you may or may not have interest in, and part of it, you have to think outside the box. There are so many things, and again, chambers of commerce, you know, and you don't have to go far. There are so many great things. There are so many great hidden treasures that are in every one of our backyards. And every year I learn something new about this area, Upper Michigan. I learned something new about the Kansas City area. This winter I learned some things new about Alabama, and so there's always a way of exploring, and again, you don't have to do it with a group of people. You can do it on your own. And most of my exploring was done on my own. I had some friends that I was in Alabama with, and we would take certain treks or go on certain adventures or certain tours. We toured, when you're in the area in Alabama, go tour the USS Alabama. It was a fascinating tour of a World War II battleship. You may not like that stuff, but there was some fascinating history there. I happen to be a World War II buff. I love anything to do with World War II. But what are some of the things you're fascinated with? What are some of the things you enjoy doing? And then explore where you can go, what you can do, and around those interests. So anyway. I've decided that I want to keep these kind of short or a little bit shorter. I'm trying to get them back down around the half-hour mark, and that's pretty close to where we're at. And so unless you guys have any questions or comments, I'd kind of like to just leave it here, and we'll wrap it up, and I'll see you next week. So I'll wait here for a second just to see if anybody has any questions. But again, what is it that you bring to the table? What qualities do you possess that would be attractive to your mate? And is it your cooking ability? Is it dancing? Is it and ladies, I know there's a lot of you out there that like hunting and fishing. Are you a good hunter or a good fisherman or fisher person, fisher woman? I don't know. Do you enjoy fishing? What are some of the things that you do? And guys, do you enjoy, what things do you enjoy doing? Do you enjoy painting? And I'm not talking about painting walls. I'm talking about painting pictures. Do you enjoy photography? What are some of the things that you enjoy doing? Getting out on a bicycle and riding. That's not only do you get fresh air, not only do you see some great nature, but you also get fresh air. Or you get great exercise. So it's some of the things that you can do provide multiple benefits. You can get additional steps, go hiking and get your 10,000 or 20,000 steps in for a day. So anyway, okay. Well, since we don't have any questions or any additional comments, we'll just wrap it up there. And like I said, we'll try to wrap these up and keep these a little bit shorter at 30 minutes, and we'll go from there. I hope you all have an awesome week, and I will see you next Monday for Monday Mastery right here with author and dating coach Rick Sodebeer. Have a great evening, everyone. I love you guys. Thanks for tuning in.